Hey everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to know your thoughts about this story and what you think about the characters and their decisions. Share your thoughts in the comments. Enjoy the story. It was supposed to be just another party, a casual weekend get-together with a few close friends. You know, the kind of event where you grab a drink, laugh about old memories, and forget about the daily grind for a while. But for me, it turned out to be the night everything fell apart. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 37, and I work in IT for a financial firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. My wife, Rachel, and I had been together for 12 years. The kind of couple everyone thought was perfect, comfortable, stable, maybe a little too predictable. But underneath the surface, something had been brewing for months, and I couldn't see it coming. That evening, I was supposed to head out for work-related business, but I promised Rachel that I'd be back in a few hours. The house was filled with our friends, good friends, the kind we'd known for years. I kissed Rachel on the cheek as I grabbed my briefcase. "Don't have too much fun without me," I joked, trying to lighten the mood. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'll try, Ethan." I didn't think much of it. She'd been tired lately. Work had been overwhelming for both of us. I figured she needed this break, and I needed to focus on this one last work thing. But the truth was, things weren't the same between us anymore. We hadn't really connected in weeks. It felt like we were drifting. The intimacy had faded, and our conversations had turned into polite exchanges, like roommates sharing space rather than partners in a marriage. I tried to bring it up, but Rachel always had an excuse, and soon enough, I stopped trying to talk about it. I kissed her once more and left for work, hoping for a change when I got back. But that wasn't what happened. When I returned a few hours later, I was expecting to walk into a quiet house, maybe with Rachel cleaning up or chatting with friends. But as I walked in, I immediately knew something was off. The house was silent, eerily so. No music, no voices, no laughter. I stood by the door, my heart thudding in my chest for reasons I couldn't quite place. I looked around, but there was no sign of anyone in the living room or kitchen. Then I heard it, the faint sound of voices coming from upstairs. I couldn't make out the words, but it was clear that they weren't just friends chatting. The tone of the conversation was more intimate, close, too close. I hesitated at the base of the stairs, my mind racing, trying to piece things together. Was Rachel upstairs with a friend? Maybe she'd gone up to relax after the party. But then, as I made my way toward the stairs, I heard a sound I wasn't expecting. A laugh. A low, familiar laugh. It was Rachel's laugh. But there was someone else. A man. My stomach dropped, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. I wasn't imagining it. Rachel was upstairs with someone. And from the sound of it, they weren't just talking. I stood frozen, torn between rushing up the stairs to confront them or walking away before I saw something I couldn't undo. I couldn't turn back now. I had to know. As I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed the door to the guest bedroom was slightly ajar. I could see movement inside. Through the crack, I caught a glimpse of Rachel and the DJ from the party, John, leaning against the bed, whispering to each other. I felt my blood run cold. I didn't know how long they'd been in there, but the way they were standing, too close, too comfortable, told me everything I needed to know. Rachel's hand was resting on John's arm, a gesture that I recognized all too well. It was the same touch she'd used with me when we were dating, when she was trying to show me that she cared. But this wasn't me, and this wasn't a relationship I thought we had. For a moment, I stood frozen, just watching them. Rachel leaned in, her lips brushing against John's ear as she whispered something. I didn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. The way John looked at her, the way she responded, told me all I needed to know. Something inside me snapped. My heart, which had been heavy for weeks, suddenly felt like it was shattering. Without thinking, I pushed the door open. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded. Both of them froze. Rachel's eyes widened, her face paling as she quickly pulled away from John. John immediately stood up straight, his eyes darting between me and Rachel. "Ethan, I didn't know you'd be back this soon," Rachel stammered, scrambling to find words that wouldn't sound like lies. John stepped back, his hands raised defensively. "Look, man, I didn't. Don't. Just don't." I cut him off. "This is what you've been doing? Well, I'm out there working my ass off for us. This is how you repay me." Rachel's face crumpled, and she stepped towards me, But I took a step back, my anger flaring. "Ethan, please, it's not what you think," she said, her voice desperate. But I wasn't listening to her excuses anymore. I had trusted her, loved her, and for what? So she could hide her betrayal behind my back? I wasn't a fool. Not anymore. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice shaking with rage. Rachel's eyes flickered toward John, who looked just as uncomfortable as I felt. Ethan, I never meant for this to happen," Rachel whispered, her eyes welling with tears. I didn't know what else to do. I've been feeling so lost lately. We've been drifting apart, and I didn't know how to fix it. I clenched my fists at my sides. I had spent so long trying to understand her, trying to be patient, but this was unforgivable. "And John," I sneered. "Was he your solution? The guy who's been playing DJ at our parties, and now playing with your emotions?" John stood there, silent, knowing he had no defense. Rachel stepped forward, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Don't. You've already said enough," I said coldly. And that's when it hit me. Everything had been a lie. The life I thought we shared, the love I thought we had. It had all been a charade. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. I turned and walked out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind a swirl of confusion and anger. I heard Rachel's footsteps behind me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Downstairs, the party had died down, and people were heading out. But I couldn't stay. Not here. Not with her. I grabbed my jacket, yanked the front door open, and stepped out into the night, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. Rachel's voice called after me, but I didn't turn around. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't look at John either, because what I had just witnessed wasn't just an affair. It was the end of everything I thought was real. I spent the next few days and days trying to figure out what to do. My mind kept returning to that moment, the one that would forever change everything. The moment I walked into the guest room and saw Rachel with him. My wife, my partner, the woman I had planned my future with. I couldn't forget it. I couldn't forgive it. A week later, I sat in the office of a lawyer, David Trent, a man with sharp eyes and an even sharper reputation. "You've got a solid case for divorce," David said, flipping through the papers I'd given him. "Adultery, emotional distress, fraud. This isn't a simple breakup." I nodded, my throat tight. "I know." David leaned back in his chair. "We'll make sure you get everything you're entitled to. But, Ethan, if you want to keep your sanity, we'll have to play this by the book. No public drama, no scenes. The courts will appreciate your professionalism." I nodded again. I wasn't interested in drama. I just wanted out. David slid the paperwork across the table. "Sign here, and we'll start the process." I looked at the paper in front of me. The truth was, I didn't care about the money or the house or the things we had accumulated. I cared about getting away from the lie that Rachel had built. I signed. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. It wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty, but it was final. Rachel moved into a small apartment in a different part of town. John had stayed in her life, but I was done. I couldn't keep living in the shadow of someone else's betrayal. And through it all, I learned something that I will never forget. Lies destroy more than just relationships. They destroy everything you thought you knew about your life. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, you know how it feels. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for listening.